All right, guys. Today we have a very special guest. When you're talking about someone who's done film, someone who's been in film, someone who is film, as far as we are concerned, he is someone you will definitely recognize from the film we brought him here to discuss today, Django Unchained. But he is an actor, and a writer from Louisiana who has been working steadily since 2008 with 50 movies under his belt, plus five more from announced post-production stages. His name is Escalante. Don't mess it up, Lundy, but you may know him as Big Fred. Mr. Lundy, thank you so much, sir, for joining us again today. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me.
All right, so your biography mentions that you are, of course, shy by nature. Your first acting role actually came unexpectedly when an actor didn't show up for set on a production you were a stage producer on in California, and this is right where the everything got us last night when we tried this. What was it about that performance that led you to shift gears towards acting?
I guess it was. I was put in a position that I was like it wasn't like deer in the headlight. It was like somebody throwing a cold water in your face, and then you kind of like wake up. Um, like I said, I guess shy may not be the best word. Introverted may be a better word. Um,
Okay.
Maybe a better word. Type of person that I still am to a certain degree. But what it really the I guess it really comes down to I was uh, emotionally stunted in a way, 'cause I didn't expose myself emotionally. I had these walls up. I wasn't good with rejection. I didn't let people get too close to me that I didn't know. I had a couple of bad experiences. When you trust people and they disappoint you,
Yeah.
you depending on your personality. Some people they just keep going. I'm the opposite. I kind of retreat.
Hmm.
So in that way, getting acting uh, is a art form or profession that you are the product. You know, it's not like I paint a picture or I play an instrument or I do a sculpture. I am it. I am
Yeah.
this instrument. I am the sculpture. I am this product. So you there's no hiding when you're an actor or a singer to a certain. The singer also is another. The singer also. You are the product. So I was forced to put in a situation that was extremely uncomfortable. While I was up on this stage and I felt every eyeball on me, even though I wasn't the main character, and I'm sure most people weren't looking at me, but I felt, so I felt everything I did, the way I walked, well, I didn't say anything, but just being up there and people looking at you was very uncomfortable for me. And to do that and to feel that even though I'm in this uncomfortable situation, it was something about it that was like awakening. Like this is something that I never thought about doing it or not doing it. It just never crossed my mind. But for some reason, being on that stage, I felt it was something that I was called to pursue. Not for the acting of it, but for the ability to be in a situation where you're uncomfortable, to overcome your fear, and to see if you can be successful at it.
Yeah.
Because I knew nothing about acting as far as a profession, as far as you know the long term ramifications of being an actor or what the future held. For me, was just being in the most uncomfortable situation you can be in, and to go through it, and to have a certain degree of success was something that I felt I needed to continue to see if this is something that I can actually do. So that was my reason for acting, and nothing to do with acting. It
Right.
had to do with a human being fully exposed, fully open, fully vulnerable, and to survive it emotionally and psychologically. So that
Oh,
was it was a acting to me was a different take than the average person that grows up and wants to be an actor because I had worked a 20-year professional career. So I wasn't a teenager, a 20-year-old kid that just wanted to be an actor. That wasn't the reason I became one.
Yeah,
That's
like where a lot of people they want to become an actor to see themselves on the big screen. It was more personal for you. It was a challenge that you wanted to get over in yourself.
Yeah, it was a human experience
right.
to do something, besides heights. This is probably the scariest thing that had actually. I'm not good with heights either. So to me, to be a roofer would have been, or a stevedore working on a sky, that would have been the hardest thing for me ever to do, because I can't get in one of those uh, elevators where they're exposed on the backside, where there's no wall, and I can see, at that, to me, I always retreat to the front of the elevator.
You're not jumping to take Tom Cruise's place in the Mission Impossibles, doing your own stunts where
No.
you're acting and dealing with heights at the same time.
Now, I will say this.
I'd be paralyzed. But that was the reason, that being on that stage and actually feeling, even though I didn't say anything because that was another level of discomfort, but just to be up there and to make it through in one piece, and being around all these other people that were like, it was second nature. I felt like I was part of something that was happening in real time, that this wasn't a scripted play production. This was something that was actually happening. That's how I felt after a while being on the stage. So I had never had that feeling besides playing athletic, something just happening in real time, and you just go with whatever's happening. So
Can I touch on that real quick, Escalante? Because I think you just hit on something that every person feels, not just artists. I think when you find your true passion in life, or something that truly gives you passion, should I say, it's never something that's sought out. For me, like, I used to like watching TV, being on TV. I never said, hey, I'm going to do this. And then one day, I mean, I had stage fright like you would never believe. I don't even think me and you've ever talked about it. Oh, you wouldn't believe. Yeah, exclusive. I had stage fright when I was younger, and someone helped me get over it. But my point is when I got on that live stage, and it wasn't about me seeing myself, it was about me seeing what I was able to emote in people and what it made me feel. I was like, oh no, I don't care what drugs out there in the world, there is no high better than this. And I knew that it was something in me so I can't say that I found acting. I more so have to say acting found me. And so when I hear you tell the story, you didn't want to be one, but it was like, no, this is a human experience I'm going through, because I think about how many people want to be actors and love acting, but when that camera comes on that stage, they're frozen. Well, it's not what you want to be, it's what you're going to be. And I love that you didn't start out doing this. You're the first person we talked to who didn't want to start out doing this, but if you found, and that's beautiful. So let me ask you this now. It's 2005. You've moved back home to New Orleans, largely motivated by, of course, the Hurricane Katrina, rest in peace to everyone who lost their lives there. Now, your families, they were victims of Hurricane Katrina. Can you tell us about, at the time, now returning home, you're trying to build your career, you yourself, like, how do you even equate that? How do you mentally go through something like that and try to come out of it?
well, when I was in Sacramento and I'm watching the aftermath, the current, and then the aftermath, I just, every picture they showed on the television, I had been there. There was not one picture that they showed in the city of New Orleans I hadn't been. So it's all people are watching it, but nobody in California that was at the job that I worked could relate to it to the degree I related to it, and just felt a deep sense of sorrow, because it just felt so unnecessary, that this had to happen, and all the stories we used to hear when we were young, that anytime there was a major flood, some reason they seemed to divert the water to certain parts of the city as compared to others.
Mhm.
And then you hear stories about, you hear about the Corps engineers not building the canal, that the levees didn't break the canal. There was 3 canals that collapsed. And then you find out later that they didn't construct them correctly, and they were hollow inside. So the retaining walls was shells. They weren't walls. So that was, stuff like that, just sad that, you can't help that a hurricane comes. Hurricanes come every year.
Mhm.
And a hurricane had passed New Orleans, but the weight of the water that was in the canals overwhelmed the canals, and that's what happened. And in a lot of reasons, because the Corps engineers, whoever they hired to construct it, didn't do a good job. So you hear stories like that. It's like this unnecessary burden, this unnecessary hardship on these people that they didn't deserve. So then I went home. I didn't go. When I went home initially, I wasn't going home to stay. I took a 2 month. I took a month leave of absence. Then I took another month leave of absence. Then I decided I wasn't going back because I couldn't, because my parents lived here, but my brothers, I have 4 brothers that lived in other parts of the country. Actually, the youngest one lived with me at the time. So I just couldn't go back home. Couldn't go back to California and just, I'll send you some money, even though I would make way more money in California than I would trying to make money in New Orleans, but I still felt a sense of responsibility because I was the oldest out of my other brothers, and I wasn't married. The 3 of them were married. The youngest one wasn't married. He was living with me. So, it just felt that it was, my responsibility to take care of business. And then while I was home, now it's 2006, I kept I couldn't get past the pull that I had to get involved in the acting industry. It was a great experience, but I hadn't felt anything like that since I played football when I was in high school and college. So I could not let it go. For some reason, it's like once you get exposed to something that stirs something inside of you, and you don't want to, and it's something that you never felt in decades since, like I said, since I played in college. It was something that I felt that I needed to do. Yeah. Not so much I wanted to do, but that I needed it more than I wanted it, which is more important, that you need something. Everybody wants stuff, but so that whole 2006, it was in me. I couldn't let it go. Then as I mentioned yesterday, I went to a gentleman, Anthony Bean, who had a theater company. I knew Anthony prior to going to him for some lessons. And that's the funny part. I would go to play every week. Every week I would go to these plays, and I would see these people up here 2 and 3 hours, and I'm just like, I can't do this. Get on a stage and just create this reality out of imagination for 2 and 3 hours straight. It seemed like it was like impossible, but I could not walk away. So I went to him, asked him for lessons, and then he said, "Well, take this monologue home. Whenever you want to come back and perform it for me, I'll let you know if I will let you in my class." So I took this monologue home. And then I went back a couple of weeks later and I performed it. Probably did like 8, 9 times. He wasn't impressed because basically I was just reading it. I didn't know anything about anything. And so he called me about maybe a week later and asked me, he had a part he wanted me to read for. So I go back to the theater. This is November, December. And then this is 2005. Yeah, just 2006. And he said, so I asked him, what's the name of what's the part you want to read for? I said, The Papaya Man. I said, okay, so what's the name of the play? The Papaya Man. I said, hold up. If my name is the name of the play, that means I'm the lead. I'm going to be on stage a lot, So I thought about it, my head said no, but my mouth said yes. Because I figured if I want to act, this is gonna let me know if I want to act, because he threw me at the deep end. I remember going to that table reading all these seasoned actors, and everybody is actually in character almost, and I'm just reading, literally like you're reading a book. And then we get on stage for the actual rehearsal, and it was a play about a gentleman that him and his brother owned a catering service and a restaurant and a catering service that dealt with exotic fruit, and papaya being one of them. And this temporary agency that hired people to do temporary work, they came to order food, and 2 of the workers were having a hard time with their boss, who was kind of uptight. And so once they met me, they figure if they invite me over, order some food, bring me over, and me and her will, have an attraction. So if she gets a man, it alleviate the pressure on them. That was their plan. So my first line was "Good afternoon." Just come with my food. Good afternoon. And I don't know what I said, but obviously wasn't good enough. I had this theoretical thought in my mind this dramatic way to say it, and he told me, "Stop, stop, stop. You sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Go back and do it again." So I went back and did it again. I did it again. I did it again. He said, "You know what? I don't know if this is gonna work." I said, "You're right. This ain't gonna work." I said, "Look, won't you bring in a real actor? I'll still come every day, just to be there. I'll help out any way I can. And maybe the next play." He said, "Okay." Come back the next day. He said, "You know what? You get your butt back up there." And so the first Friday in January, good afternoon. That's basically how I got started. And really acting, because I had been in 2 plays and a film, but no words, So I was
Listen, if you're not auditioning to be a storyteller as well, man, you're not living life, man. You had us hooked. We stopped looking at the questions. We were like, yeah, no. And what happened next? Go to A.
It's very unusual story. It's like if I go to Office Depot tomorrow and say, hey, you by the printers, you're gonna be an actor. That's basically what happened. I just got pulled out. For some reason, powers greater than me wanted me to do this, and because they know I needed it as a human being. And I can't say acting has changed my life. It has changed me as a person for the better. So that was my reason for being an actor. It was never about being an actor. It was never about it. It never started that way. After when I started acting, I didn't tell people I was an actor for years until they actually saw me. If you didn't see me, I would never tell you I was an actor. It took me at least 5 years for me to actually say I was an actor, because I didn't feel I was an actor, because I wasn't doing this to be a professional actor. I was doing this to help me as a human being. It was like my therapy, I guess.
And you've acted on stage and in film. What is there a difference to you as far as like the pressure that you feel when you have the audience, a direct connection to the audience right there? They're all watching you, compared to on a film set, everybody that might be watching behind the camera, they're all invested in telling the story just like you are. Is there a difference there in your performance?
Performance, there's a lot of difference between the two. It's, even television is different. From film to from theater to film to television. The first difference, is the speed, is the time. Television is like that. You have 22 minutes for a 30-minute sitcom.
Yeah.
Most of the scenes are 2 shots. It's rare that you don't get too many one-on-one dramatic shots, because you don't have time for it. Most of them are quick. Television is quick. Film is a little more dramatic. You're not as much of a rush. And theater, you have to use your body. Those are the initial physical that you can spot quick. The scary part with theater, as there's no do it again.
Yeah.
Once you start, that's it. There's no let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's change camera angles. Can you do it this way? That's like, and that was a few times I got on stage, I forgot a line, because in stage, you have to be extremely unselfish, because your co-stars your fellow actors depend on you. I've been in plays where one of the actors, she was the lead, and she not only forgot her lines, she would do a line not only in another scene, but in another act. We have to go find her. She's supposed to come in. We have to go find her. She's not on stage, or she comes on stage when she shouldn't be. I've been in a play where a woman fell asleep during the play, because there was a scene in the Papaya Man where she's in her office. So you just turn it, you just turn the lights off. They just turn the lights off, and they have the other actors, because you can't have people looking at 2 different scenes at the same time. So she goes in the office, so she just turned the light off to let, and she fell asleep during the play. And so one of the other actors said, let me go see where she is. And nobody knew that she fell asleep till he went over there and said, man, she fell asleep. So To your question, the difference is in it for me. Let me say for me in a play, you have to be on the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. There's no. Oh damn! I'll get it next time. There's none of that. You have to be on the whole time. So it's more. Plays are more fun because there's more risk.
Yeah.
There's more risk, and there's more collaboration. You rehearse with these people for at least a month at the minimum. Whereas most movies or television shows I did, I didn't know the other person I was in the scene with before I met them. And a lot of times they jump in from. You can actually do a film and not know one line. You just learn it. You're shooting big films. You're shooting a page and a half to 2 pages a day, so you can learn your lines the night before. Or if you're doing a movie back to back to back, where it's hard sometimes to know all your lines. So it's I think the immediacy is of a play.
That's what I was going to speak to. I was going to speak to that instant gratification because, again, like you spoke to just a moment ago, when I was younger and I'm watching TV and I'm deciding, hey, one day this is what I want to do in my mind. You have to. I'm like, man, this is why these guys are the best. They remember. They literally commit the script to memory the entire time. Like, no, that's not what's happening. You grow up and you realize, no, they didn't commit it to memory. It's line by line. But let me ask you this: you start talking about bigger projects and bigger films and bigger productions. We noticed that you share a few credits with Laura Cayuette.
She said hello, by the way.
She did say hello. From Trimming to Django Unchained. I'm sorry. From Trimming to Django Unchained, I guess, and to Left Behind. I guess True Blood didn't want any of that. Also, she's also a Louisiana performer. Do you guys actually know each other? Did you meet in the film industry?
We met at on the set of Django Unchained. That's where we met. That's the first time I met her. Yeah, and we've done two other films we were in, but we didn't have any scenes together on those other films. Yeah,
Was she really focused? Did she seem method? What was she like behind the scenes, just from what you could observe in your time there?
She was fun, man. She was fun. She's a real nice person, easy to talk to. Like hanging out one, like your sister or your cousin or your best friend, because she was real nice, down to earth person, and we still cool today. If I see her and her husband, they're together a lot, and I'll see them out, in the street somewhere, and yeah, Laura was real nice. Actually, we had a conference call. This must have been last year. It was before COVID. We had it was 8 years since we had did Django. I think we had some of us, 15 to 20 of us had a conference call about the time we had, because that film, more than any other film I had, it's the longest I ever spent time on a film project, and it was like going to fantasy islands for filmmaking. I would wake up every morning 5 o'clock running to the set. I worked 3 months on that set, so. Yeah, so Laura everybody got to really get, if you were there any period of time, you got to really to meet everybody, get to know everybody. It was like one big family. It wasn't, besides Quentin, there was no hierarchy really. There's an obvious hierarchy, but it wasn't manifested as far as if you was an extra, or if you was one of the leads, you weren't necessarily treated bad because you was extra. You weren't put on a pedestal because you was the lead, because you do a film with him, he is the lead. He is the star. Everybody can be replaced but him. So, and he didn't allow that, because he would talk to everybody. So, Laura was cool. That she was nice and funny, and that's a real good person. Because you notice, you'll know it, because after you finish working, there are certain people that you still would communicate if you saw again. Other people, you just say hi and keep going. But she is one of those people that if I saw her tomorrow somewhere, we would talk at least 5-10 minutes if we were going somewhere, and longer if we weren't going anywhere. So yeah, Laura, real nice person, real good actress too.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
She's a treat.
For somebody like you who's worked on you worked on large scale productions like Django Unchained, and you've done all the way to independent, what would you say is the common thread, regardless of the budget involved in filmmaking?
But the work you have to do as an actor, you have to still do the same. You can't work and the quality of work can't be predicated on the budget, because I know we've all seen big budget films and the work seems very lacking, and you've seen some of the smaller budget films that was tremendous, and then it made a name for itself because it was so good. Films like, say, like a Slumdog Millionaire, nobody thought that film was going to go anywhere, and look what happened. So, you know, you have to, the work is the work, because you never know who's going to see it. You never know who's going to see it. I did a film, I did a student film for this German girl. She was at University of New Orleans, and Us Against the World, I think the name of it was. I played a prison guard that on death row, and I get a customer that was a guy, was a childhood friend of mine, probably 40 years ago, when I was, you know, as far as my character. And initially I didn't recognize him, so he recognized me, and then we started talking. And from that film, and I did another film. There was 2 films I did that was in the New Orleans Film Festival. This was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And then a gentleman, a film producer, was there with his crew, and he saw it and gave me the lead, one of the leads in his next film. Based on that, based on those 2 films that I did. Now, what if I would have? That's a student film, you know. Anything I do would be better than what they had. Well, if I had that attitude, he probably wouldn't have been interested in me hiring me, and I never would have did the zombie movie, Southern Fried Zombies. That's what it was, Southern Fried Zombies. Wow. But I met me and him are still friends today. And he lives in L.A. He has a condo in New Orleans, and he's about to do some other films. He wants me to work with his production company. So from that student film to meeting his producer, to getting the lead in his film, and now he's about to get some major funding to do some other films, and he wants me to be one of his manager. And then any film that he has that has a character that I can do, I'll have that part. So, and that's with everything in life. Yeah. You know, you treat somebody good, you never know who that person's going to be. You know, a kid today that you treat nice and grows up to, you know, he'll remember that. And these kids at these student films, one of them may become a famous director, producer one day. Yeah, 100%. Just in life in general, I believe in you treating people how you want to be treated. Because I remember when I was young, who treated me well and who didn't. You know, so it's a good habit to have, because if you have bad habits, it'll show up. Okay. When it shouldn't.
Right. Well, let me talk about showing up for a second, because you mentioned before acting, and you mentioned producing, things of that nature. Well, okay, he's branching out, but in 2010, you wrote and starred in the short film Where Strippers Go to Die. And I'm telling you this, I don't know if there's a copy of it online, but once we're done with this, if you can send that to me, because I just feel like I really need to do some research on that. Can you tell us about that film?
Oh God, you have to find it. That was when I was in this acting class. I had this acting class with this teacher, Jerry Katz. And that was the best class I've been in. I was in that class for over 7 years. That's where most of my acting friends I met. It was like a group project. I was one of the writers. I wasn't the main writer. Shannon Forster. Actually, I don't know if you saw it. One of my credits was for my firstly fully produced film, A Cry for Help. We just completed that in March of this year, and it played at the Louisiana Film Prize, and we got nominated for one of the top films, and I got nominated for Best Actor.
Congratulations!
Awesome. But thank you. Strippers Go to Die is the title is, I think the title is probably more funny than the film. It wasn't a funny film at all. But it was a group project when most every person in the film was somebody that was in that acting class at that time. And me and my co-producer Shannon Forster, because we did the A Cry for Help film. We produced that, but it's my first time getting involved in the filmmaking process, because it basically started at her kitchen table. Me, her, the director, and another gentleman, Sam Medina. he was in the movie 22 with Mark Wahlberg. He was the adversary of Mark Wahlberg. So we all sat down and started collaborating on this project about a strip club owner that owns the strip club, but something goes awry, and one of the strippers dies because one of the customers takes it too far, accidentally, kills her. And I played one of the police officers who comes to the scene and investigates the transgression. So that was my first time actually getting involved in the process, because I told you initially I started off as a producer, and then I got thrown into acting, and so I never really got back to that part of it until I did The Strippers Go to Die. So I'm more of a natural producer, because it's just project manager. That's what I did before. Acting is the challenge. Acting is the thing that kept me in the film industry. But it was good to be in a situation where you have some control, because as an actor, you really have no control unless you're one of the top actors in the world. You're always auditioning, you're always reading for different parts. And if you do good work and people start to notice you, it gets easier. But all that means is that now you're moving up, but you're also moving up to high competition. It's like going from undergrad to graduate school.
Yeah.
You're moving up, but everybody else you like competing against now is better, because you got to realize I have a 20 to 25 year. I'm 20 to 25 years late. Most people my age started acting at least 20 to 25 years before me. If the teenager is 25 years, and if it's a 20-year-old, then it's 20 years. They started acting before me. So I have always been at a disadvantage. So I had to work extremely hard just to get close behind them. So this actually helps give me an advantage. If I'm part of the production now, I don't have to worry about the auditioning part, and I can use some of that energy on the product itself. And then because and it just I like the team atmosphere of producing something, because nobody can do a project by themselves.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you can't do everything by yourself, and people who have tried to do too many things have failed fantastically, because it's the small things, the wardrobe, the catering, the transportation, the locations. There's so many parts to a film, to doing even a short film. People don't realize. You just don't show up and it happens.
Yeah.
People
would be surprised.
Yeah.
Because when I
do that little thing with the camera.
I thought an hour film took an hour to shoot. I didn't know.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it
I had
is.
no idea that it took months. I mean, for a film, but maybe not a television show, but it takes a long time. That every minute that you see on the screen, who knows how many hours that took.
With Where Strippers Go to Die, did you write the character, the part that you played, for yourself, or what was that?
Yeah, because we each wrote our own characters. I played one of the detectives. I can't remember his name. It was 11 years ago. I played one of the detectives. Me, but Shannon Forster, she was the lead writer. She came up with the idea. She came up with the initial idea, and then we added to it. Me, her, Sam Medina, and director Ed Hulab. So we added to it, and it took us about a week to. It was a show. It was like, I think the film was probably like, it was less than 20 minutes. So I was my thing was just creating my character, and how his history, how he came to who he is, and how he interacted, and what was his part in the story. So that was my initial part as far as writing. It was my contribution I don't think was that big, but the impact and what impact it had on me on getting into the filmmaking process, not just acting, was tremendous. So it was a good way to get in to it, get an opportunity to learn, and how to grow from that.
I like what you're
So
saying there from you having to learn the whole process. As most actors think they can max out just by acting, but when you start seeing the writing process, the producing, the project management, as you've spoken about,
yeah,
you can really get a feel for what it is. Let me ask you this now: if we move forward a little bit, it's 2012, and you get the call. You're going to be in Django Unchained. So first, how did that come to be? And second, what was your reaction initially?
that was a strange situation because I remember in 2011, it was maybe like August 2011, had the audition. It was two parts that I read for. It was Big Fred, and it was this other part. I think it was Oscar. It was another character. The other character I wanted to get because the other character in the audition had the most lines. And later on, they broke it up at the very, very end of Django. They broke it up to the three guys in the cage. They gave each one of them a line. But initially, each one of those guys, it was just one person had that line. And Big Fred just had, I think my line was "Yes, sir" 3 times. That's all it was. And later became the best scene I ever did in the history of my acting career. And then they actually cut it out of the movie. Because I didn't understand the script. It was a lot of stuff. A lot of sometimes they get scripts. You only get your part. That you get a snippet of the part, one of the parts that you're reading for. You could have 3 scenes. They may give you 1 scene to read for. So you have no idea how it fits in the story. Zero. Yeah. So I read for Big Fred, and I read the character's name was Oscar. I think that's what it was. So I go into the casting director's office. I read for both of those, and I leave. And I don't hear anything. Normally, if I don't hear anything within a week, I forget about it. Because, when I first started, I used to nag my agent, "Did you hear anything?" She said, "Relax. If they want you, they'll let you know. If they don't, they don't." Because they don't call you and tell you don't have it. They call the people who do. And I didn't understand. I didn't know that. So that was another lesson learned. They're not that courteous. So anyway, that was August. And then in November, it was the week before Thanksgiving or the week of Thanksgiving. And I remember my agent calling me saying, "Quentin Tarantino wants to meet you. He's at the, I think it was the Fairmont Hotel downtown. I guess he had a room there." I said, "For what? It's another movie?" "No, it's the movie because normally, I didn't know how big films work. Big films, they start production, way ahead. Whereas normally for like a television show, if you're a co-star, you read one, you go in audition, in a couple of days, whether you got the part or not. And if it's in most films in those days before they started doing taped auditions, you would go in, cast director, and then you would come back for a callback with the producer or director of the film. Like I did was what was one that I did? Nicolas Cage, Bad Lieutenant. I went in. I remember going in and did a good job. I made it to the audition because I made it to the callback. I had the famous director, German. Is he German? Verhoog, whatever his name is. Anyway,
yeah.
I can't think of his name right now, but I met him. I remember whispering to his assistant that was a great audition. He ran to get the part. So that was I was used to going in, either getting the part or having a call back and getting the part. That's how it was back in those days before they started doing a lot of tape auditions. And so I go to the hotel. I'm waiting outside. He comes to the door. No, the casting director comes to the door. I go in there. He comes, shakes my hand, and he's just bigger than life. I mean, he sucks all the air out the room. Say, "Escalante Lundy, great to meet you. I like your audition. You said you do what most actors don't do. You don't give me what I want. You give me a character, not what you think I want." Well, I didn't give you what I thought you want because I didn't know what the hell what it was. I didn't know what the character was. It was just 3 lines of "yes, sir." So, I didn't know enough to give him what he wanted. It was sometimes it's best to be ignorant because you can't make obvious mistakes if you don't know. So that's one of those times where ignorance was bliss. So we sat down, and it was his assistant and then the local casting director. And we talked about 25 minutes. He just talked and talked and talked before he even got to just talking about, he wanted to know about my life. Basically what you're doing, that's what he did.
That's
Because
cool.
what he's doing is he's trying to see if the character is inside of you. Because when he looks at you, he's looking like he's almost reading your mind. Like he's looking past everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a hard person to lie to, extremely. Because he's noticing everything you do, your body language. So we talked about 25 minutes. I remember him asking me, do you feel uncomfortable? Would you feel uncomfortable doing, after explain what the movie was about, would you feel uncomfortable with doing this type of movie? I said, if I felt comfortable, something would be wrong with me. So then we read it, the scene, he explained what the scene was. But I had a fight scene before that, and this is after when we get to Candyland, and then he explained all that. So we did the scene, we read it, then we actually did it physically. And then he said, well, if you get this part, I want you to, don't cut your hair, don't shave. You might need to lose some weight. I need to see if you can actually do the physical part to it. So I would have you meet with a stunt coordinator locally, and then see if he thinks you can do the job. So I'm saying to myself, he wants me to do all that. I must have the job. I didn't know other people. He was in addition to other people also. I had no idea. So I wasn't even thinking that. So I go home. I'm all excited. I get a call next day from the stunt coordinator, said he had a local person there that he wanted me to meet with, and the guy was going to put me through the paces to see if he felt I could do the job, because he said I was a little bigger than he thought I was, and he didn't know whether or not I could physically do. So I met the guy. His name was Buddy. He was an older guy. So I did everything he wanted me to do, and then he called the other guy, the casting director, the stunt coordinator, and gave him my approval, his approval, and then he called me and said, yeah, I got the proof, and then I get a call a couple of days later that I had the part. So that was right after Thanksgiving that I found out officially that I was going to be shooting in March. So that's how I got the part.
And what was that like working with Tarantino on set?
It's like no director ever met. I say what he does, and this what people who haven't worked doesn't know. He seduces you. You fall in love with him. And what I mean by that is that he gives you everything that you need. I mean, it's like Fantasy Island. You want something, you got it. I mean, you have the best in catering, which is my favorite department. Set design, wardrobe, props. You have the best in everything. There's nothing you can say you didn't have. They had a guy. They would have when they were shooting a scene, if a cloud was a certain location, if the cloud moved, they can call some weather channel. It will let them know another cloud was coming. It was to that degree. I mean, you're talking about a $900 million budget. I mean, he's so intelligent, and he's the key with Quentin is he's a great communicator. Mm-hmm. That's probably his number one asset, and that's why a lot of directors probably fail. They don't have the knowledge of how to communicate with actors. And that's probably one of his greatest strengths. He knows how to communicate with people. I remember I was doing a scene, me and Lil, we did the fight scene. After the fight scene that y'all saw in the movie is not the fight scene. That's like a sample.
Yeah.
That fight scene took us 2 weeks to shoot. He showed y'all the rated G version.
Yeah.
They had that, we was in the, like in the corner with like you're fighting and the manager, and then there was parts after the fight. There's a part when I took both the guy's eyes out, the part when he big chunks out my shoulder. But we shot it for 2 weeks. And there was a scene after the fight when you see when after the fight, Leo tells the bartender to give me a beer and all that. But we did it a few times, and then one time Quentin said, say it knowing you don't mean it, but say it the same way you're saying it, but just say it knowing you don't mean it. And when we did it next time, I felt that he didn't mean it. Like I knew this was like the end for me. but he knows not only what to say, he knows how to say it that it's easy for you to translate and to perform it. So I would say probably his communication skills are probably the best that I've ever seen. And then he does stuff for you, like at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. We would have movie night where he would get this obscure Japanese movie, and he'll take a theater. He rent out the whole theater, and only we can come, and there'll be food there and alcohol, and you know, he showed he appreciated you. So what that did for you is that you would do everything for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do anything because you didn't want to disappoint him. He did all that for you, put you in this situation that nobody else had done, and so you want to do everything not to disappoint him. Not so much you do it for him more than you're doing it for yourself, and that's what he does. That's what he does. What people don't realize.
You were talking about the screenings. Is that I noticed I noticed a picture of you and some of the other cast of the film. It almost looks like you guys are at a screening.
That was actually Leo. Leo they put him in one and the stars got houses. That was the house he was staying in. It was another star's house that he was staying in, but Leo, that was the house he was staying in. So he invited some of the guys over to watch an MMA fight. I think it was who was the guy? Jones.
So James Remar, I guess, lost whatever bet. I noticed a lot of cash in his hands.
Jamie Foxx and a couple of people had bet. They would bet just $1. You know, Jamie bet. He was for the other guy. Leo had betted. James betted, and a couple of guys had bet $1. So we was on the sofa. We decided to take a picture after the fight, and James just held up the $1. So that was like because Leo had catered some food, invited some people over. It's about 20 of us, all the Mandangos and some other people and his people. So it's about 20 of us that were there, and we had like he catered dinner, and we watched the fight, and then that was afterwards. We just hanging out, just talking. So just a picture we took, but that was just with the guys, some of the guys on the set. That wasn't with the whole production with the witness stuff. Yeah, but that was just James just held the $1 up. Yeah.
I want to change tone for a moment and ask you about this, and not even just with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, with your character as well, because I was very fascinated when I found out we're going to be interviewing you with a subject matter like this, like what you told Quentin Tarantino is, if I'm comfortable with this, you got the wrong guy. There is a problem. So I wanted to know. We read that Leonardo DiCaprio was so uncomfortable with his character. He was also known for being a method actor. I mean, he ate raw bison and slept with an animal carcass for the revenue. So we already know how far he'll go. I'm curious on when you saw him, if he ever broke character with you on set just because of how uncomfortable he was in that role, something pulling away from him like that. And furthermore, were you ever at a position to where you felt you couldn't perform because this is serious content we're talking about here? How did that all translate?
Well, with me, the best thing about this film is that I had time. Like I said, I found out I had the part basically in the November, beginning of December. So I had December, January, February to prepare. I had 3 months. I never since before or after had 3 months prepared for any film. You know, so now I'll see, you know, for the stars, I see why they need that time, because to get into character, it takes time. And especially for somebody like me, I had only been acting like 6 years when that happened. So, you know, I needed the time. So for me, I had time. So what I did was, for me, what works the best, the easiest, there's a lot of things that I do, but the thing that works the most effective is a word. I have one word that's like my theme throughout the whole film. For this word, it was despair. That was the one word that I attached myself to, despair, which is just mean, you know, it's hopeless. You know, I will be a slave the rest of my life. So I attached myself to that word, and everything I did was attached to that word. And so I always kept that in me, you know, for 3 months. I just drilled that in when I was working out, when I was working my day job, when I was doing anything. I'm at the stop sign. Despair. I drilled that into me for 3 straight months. So that no matter what I was doing, in character, not in character, it was always there. With Leo, a lot of things I found out about Leo. Like he had never did a play. He had never did a play. We just was talking about some of the actors were talking that night. He was talking. He said he had never did a play. I didn't know that. He had the interesting about Leo that's so fascinating. He had just shot Great Gatsby, Django, Wolf of Wall Street, back to back to back. And I mean, that's amazing. How could you do? Each character was so different.
Yeah.
You know, he went back to back to back. I mean, straight, not a day break.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, when we would say cut, nobody really stayed externally in character. Now they may have been internally, but exterior, they would go back. Especially Sam, he was the one. He would, as soon as they say cut, he would go back to being Sam immediately. As they say action, go right into it. He probably went in and out of character the easiest. He probably did the longest. Christoph, another one, you know, the old actors, it's easy for them, I think, to break character. Nobody really stayed external. You couldn't see it. I mean, you couldn't feel. They weren't in character when after the Quentin said cut. They may have still been in character internally, but they weren't external. They weren't still. Leo wasn't still talking like Monsieur Candy, and Sam wasn't Steven, his character, and Jamie wasn't Django when they say cut. Because Quentin would always have something to say, and they would talk in their own voices. So he may have, you know, you still keep it there, but it wasn't like true method actors. Now he may have done it on other sets, I don't know. But in this set, everybody, when Quentin said cut, everybody it was a very relaxed set. Very, very, very relaxed. So people kind of, you know, semi-broke character in between takes, and we'll go right back to it as soon as you know they were it was ready. When they were started to roll, you would get right back into it when they were rolled. So I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see anybody being in character 24/7.
Well, put it this way: out of all the sets to not do that on, that's the one. Like when they say cut. Hey, so yeah, please cut. Let me ask you this: before we move on, do you have any interesting factoids you'd like to share that you think fans of the film would appreciate knowing? Anything that you saw behind scene or on set, or just anything in general?
Well, nothing with Leo, because I worked with him the most, because most of my scenes, every scene I was in, he was there. And when I met him, the funny thing, when I found out who was in the movie and I found out the character, I realized I was going to be working with him initially, but then I kind of forgot about that, you know, when I was preparing. And when it came time, because I shot my fight scene first, because they shot I think the movie took like 8 months. They shot initially all the scenes in the snow in Wyoming, I think it was Wyoming. Mm-hmm. Anything with hills was California, with the horses when they would, you know, and anything on the plantation scenes and scenes inside of Candyland was in Louisiana. The stage was in New Orleans, and the plantation scenes were out in Vacherie, Louisiana, which is like 30 miles away. And I remember I had shot my scene. First day I went on set, it was Jamie Foxx, Christoph Waltz, and Don Johnson. That scene when Jamie Foxx showed with that blue suit on. And so I walk on set, man, because I had been rehearsing with the stunt coordinator my fight scene. Then the next day he said, well, now we want you to come on set and do it. Man, you walked out there, you look like you stepped in 1850. I mean, they had real cotton. They had the guys on the horses. They had the slaves. I mean, you looked like you stepped back in time. I mean, it was frightening. Mm-hmm. It was like they could have said, okay, we're gonna make all black people from this day on, y'all gonna be real slaves. It felt like they could have did it. You know, it was like the set was so believable. It was awesome. Like it was like you was actually back in time. Yeah. I mean, and then I remember I met Don Johnson and Christoph and Jamie, and then I would go on set every day to rehearse the fight scene until it was time to do it. So I was on set at least 2 weeks before we started actually shooting it. And all the scene is just seeing the professionalism of how Quentin runs his set. He shoots a lot of takes, but everything is professional, and people just seem like this one big happy family. I've been on sets where people couldn't wait to get it over with, but not this one. I mean, it was just like everybody was happy to be there because he works with a lot of the same people, particularly the crew. And so I remember that. That's my first impression being on set. I remember when I met Leo, which was so strange. I had the last time I saw him on film was the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. So my last impression of him is this little fat white man on the side of the bed naked. That's my last impression of him. So when I'm on set, I remember right now I had been rehearsing my scene, so it said we're going to shoot the scene. So I remember Quentin said, okay, the only person I had met so far was Leo, not Leo. I had met Jamie, Christoph, and Don, but Don Johnson wasn't in this scene. So we all go to say, everybody, all actors go in the room. Y'all just go in the room, just the actors and everybody. We're just gonna wait outside. So we're in a room about probably 30 minutes. But I remember I'm in the room, and then I meet some of the new actors that's coming in. And then this kid walks up to me, "How you doing? My name is Leo," and it does not register to me. This is Leonardo DiCaprio. It did not register to me because he had jeans on. He was six. He was tall. He's like 6 feet. He's like 2 inches shorter than I'm 6'2", so he's at least 6 feet. He has his baseball cap on. I think it's Ohio State baseball cap, a gray T-shirt. So how you doing? My name is Leo. He just started talking to me, and then I'm saying, "Who is this?" Because nobody in this room should be here unless you're an actor. And it took me probably about 2 minutes before I realized who he is, because my impression of him was the little fat man laying naked on the side of the bed. So I had no idea who he was for about. Then this is who he is, because I didn't know who he was for about 2 minutes because I didn't know he was that tall and slim. I didn't know he was that tall because he's taller than I thought he would be. And then we just started talking, and then I remember then Quentin said, "Okay, we're gonna get started." He said, "Well, you want a water? I'm gonna get a water. You want a water?" I said, "Yeah, give me a water." I was just, yeah, he's very extremely nice guy. Christoph was our name for him was the most interesting man in the world because he had that beard and he had that European gentlemanliness. The way he was he was very wise. He seemed like a very wise person. The way he approached, very measured, meticulous. Because every time we was on set, I would shake his hand. He would always take his glove off before he shook my hand. He knew all the protocol, knew every protocol on how to present yourself. Jamie was real cool. Always telling stories all day. The thing about Jamie Foxx, he never raises his voice. Never raised his voice one time. Like Sam is a whole different story. Sam Jackson is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
There's no pretense. There's no nothing. He is who he is, and that's yeah. Sam and Quentin are similar like that. They who they are, they're very comfortable in their skin. Mm-hmm. The thing that I was impressed by, nothing with Leo, he treated it like it was his first big break. Because a lot of times we were shooting scenes that he was off camera, it didn't make a difference. Every take was important to him. Similar to Jamie, even though they treated it like this was their big break, they didn't treat it like, "Oh, I got this, I've been doing this, for however long, I'm the star." Nobody treated it like that. Yeah. Now, I've been on film sets where people just started acting, they get a lead role and act like they've been doing, they done won 10 Oscars. So it's just that it was so comfortable that it helped you feel, they didn't treat you like you was less than because you didn't have the experience and acknowledgement and all the credits and all the trappings that they had. You didn't have the celebrity that they had, but they didn't treat you that way because they would treat the extras. Everybody was respectful to everybody. There was no, I say they didn't treat you badly because you wasn't one of the main people on set. So it was easy to talk. I was able to talk to anybody whenever I want. I got to hang out with Leo off set a couple of times. I was talking to Jamie almost every day on set, and then some of the other actors when I had the opportunity. But it wasn't about somebody he's off limit, he's off limit. It wasn't about that. So that was probably my best impression of. that's probably the thing that people don't realize is that when you hear these rumors and you see the stuff that's printed about people, until you meet them, you don't know if that's true or not, because the person spreading the rumors or the misinformation may have a personal grievance with this person for whatever reason. That doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So I was able to find out some interesting things about these people that was very positive. So it was extremely positive experience, and it helped me continue to act, because I was thinking about, should I continue to do this? It was 5 years and I worked a little bit, but nothing major, nothing like this. I think the Tremaine from HBO might have been my biggest thing up to that time. But since then, I was able to continue acting, and that was one of the main reasons why, because I got an opportunity to be in a film. I wouldn't say that I shouldn't have been in or didn't deserve to be in, because the part that I had, somebody else already had it, and the guy was Gerard Bunch. He was the person that had my part, and he told me that he had the part, and they gave it to me. But he was in the movie, but he didn't have the part that I ended up getting.
All right. So you are a busy actor. You usually appear in about 3 to 6 films per year. So I was curious how many auditions you go on like a monthly basis. And I know it's probably different now with COVID, but on like a high note.
It's crazy. One of the thing about COVID, from August to December, I worked on 6 projects, which is I did that during COVID. I was on NCIS New Orleans. The first episode this year, I was on this show called Leverage, which is a remix.
Oh, I love Leverage.
With I had a couple scenes with Noah Wiley. NCIS New Orleans had 3 scenes with CCH Pounder. I was on the Showtime movie with Ryan Cranston, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just came out. I had a scene. I didn't have any scenes with him, but I did that. And did this TV show in episodic in Vegas called Incandescent Love, and this other show called 22. So I worked on 6 projects. I think that's the most projects I've ever worked on in that short a period of time. I think one year, it was before we lost our tax credits, I worked on 11 projects in a year. And one of the projects I was on, a guy cut me out was Keanu with the Key and Peele movie.
Mm-hmm.
They cut me out. I got the scene I was Method Man's bodyguard. And I cut my scene out. But anyway, I had a scene with Tiffany Haddish, Key and Peele, and what's the little guy that played Eazy-E?
Lakeith Stanfield? No, that's not. No, you're talking about Jason. You're talking about.
Yeah, I had a scene with I had a scene with those 4. Scene gets cut. So I heard it's on a deleted scene, but I haven't looked at it. But normally I would say once every 2 weeks, maybe. At least one every 2 weeks on average. Because sometimes I've had 3 auditions in a day before. Yeah. And I went a month with no auditions. So
while you're hitting on auditions, let me ask this: while you're hitting on auditions, what's the best advice you can give an actor who has an up and coming audition? What would you say? Being that you just did one today, anyway.
Preparation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not about memorizing lines. That's the biggest mistake people make. They make it about memorizing lines. You can have the thing totally memorized and have no character, and they'll tell you thank you and keep on going. But another person can walk into it cold, but they can create a character. Well, basically what it is that who's the person you're talking to and what do you want from them? You can get those 2 things. That's the most important thing. Who are you? You can create a history yourself. I'm an ex-military. I'm divorced. I'm alcoholic. I'm passive aggressive. I didn't finish. Whatever. And each one of those things will cause you to go a different direction. It will cause you to make a decision based on who you are, your history, and who is this person to you, and what do you want from them? Because we do it every day. we do it every day. We do it subconsciously, consciously. Sometimes we do it constantly. We won't specifically want something, but we do it every day. We go to a job we don't want. We want to go home. So we do it every day to some degree. I would say create that character, create who you are. That's what people want to see. They don't want to see me.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see this person that I've become. So I would say that being prepared. Now you have to the lines. You have to know your lines to a certain degree, but having a character and making a decision, a choice about what you want and who you want it from is more important than just memorizing lines.
Escalante, speaking of seeing you, because you brought this up, can you tell us about what you're currently working on and where your audience can look for you for? Look for you.
Okay. Like I said, we just completed. Well,
Leverage.
we completed the first full produced project I did, and it's going to be. We're in the process of putting it in film festivals. It's called A Cry for Help. So you can look for that if there's a film festival. We were in a remote film festival, which I really don't like, but we have no choice now. But we're submitting it to film festivals worldwide. So that'll be the next thing that'll come out that I did. Now, right now, streaming on CBS, NCIS New Orleans, season 7, episode 1. I play an EMT, Roger Colton. On Showtime, Your Honor, I play a prison guard, Chavez. This other movie is coming out, 22, The Unforgotten Soldier. I played I can't remember my name, but I played it's about an Afghan soldier that comes back from war and can barely walk. I'm his physical therapist. Incandescent Love. It's a episodic that probably won't be out till end of the year, probably next year. I can't remember my character's name. And Leverage. I'm not sure what channel that's going to be on. That could be easily found out. It's a remake from the original.
Yeah,
I don't know
the original one. Yes.
That I play the neighbor to one of the main characters. That's my name is Neighbor, and I have a couple of scenes with Noah Wiley. And there's another one I can't think of it. I did that earlier towards March, but those are the ones that I did last year. And there are some other projects they have me coming up, but those haven't been funded yet. So if they will get their funding, but they haven't been funded yet. So I don't know if it's actually going to happen because a lot of projects just don't get funded. So I can't speak on the ones that are upcoming because there is no principal production date set yet.
So out of the 55 roles that you've played on screen and and even more characters that you've played on the stage, is there a particular whose shoes you had the most fun, or it was just your most gratifying to get into?
Well, of course, Django was the highlight of my acting career, but I'm not going to say that. That's the easy one. I would say 2. There was one, the first time I was a lead in a film. Well, not the second time. It was called The Lot. I shot that probably 6 years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago. And the reason why it was the first time I remember the director told me, no pressure, but as you go, the film goes. So, because I was in basically every scene in the movie. The reason it was so important it was a true life story about this gentleman that lived in New Orleans that saw these kids in his neighborhood, so he decided to help them. He decided to build a playground in an empty lot that was across the street from his he had like a little restaurant. And in the process of doing that, it was a positive effect on him and the kids. Then the city came and said if he has to build a playground, they have to do it a certain way and all these rules and regulations and permits. Now, it was an empty lot. Nobody was worried about it. He decided to do something positive, and the city comes in with their bureaucracy and red tape and tell him, you want to do something good, you got to do it our way, basically. And so what happened was the film, he was telling to this guy named Russell Blanchard, who was a director, producer, and writer. And what he decided to do was do a film about this guy and raise money to buy a lot for an actual playground for these kids. So that was probably one of the most important, because I was part of that project and it did well and actually raised money. I'm not sure what happened as far as buying a lot, but just that it was something more than just a film project. It turned into something greater than some of its parts, and it went to help some of the kids that never would have had the opportunity to have this never had the opportunity to have a playground of their own. So I was like I said, that's one of the few times I was like I was the film. I was the whole film.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I was actually a lead in a film project. It was the second time, but the first film project I was in it, but it wasn't a good experience. This one was a real good experience. And as far as acting, the other one was, I mentioned A Cry for Help, because it was the first time I actually was a full producer. I was a full producer, and I was the my friend Shanna Foster. She wrote it, and she also, that's the one who actually was the initial writer for the stripper movie. And she came to me about doing this film, and it's a film about a black family, father, wife, and son, and he goes to work and he comes across this white couple, and the husband is abusing the woman. He goes to assist her, and him and the guy have words, and then there's an actual accidentally there's a fatality, and he gets charged for it, and then the neighbor sees the whole thing and he knows it was self-defense, but she doesn't go to the police. This is 1968. She doesn't go to the police and tell the truth, because she doesn't live in this white neighborhood, but she comes to him and asks for forgiveness. And that's where the movie actually starts. So the question is, if you were her or if you were him, what would you do? You get falsely accused of something you didn't do. Somebody could help you. They're too fearful to help you, but they want you to forgive them for not helping you save your life.
And that movie just went into, you said that's the one that just went into film festivals, right?
Or that.
Yeah, it was in that's one we're submitting to film festivals right now. It was in the Louisiana Film Prize in October, I think it was. You have to, because the Louisiana Film Prize is one of the few film festivals that actually pay you if you win. It's a cash prize, but you have to shoot most of it in Shreveport, Louisiana. So we did that in March. We actually got it shot the last weekend before the shutdown. So we were very fortunate.
Before we let you go, and again, thank you for coming on, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with the audience? Just anything at all? Could be a proverb, poem, or just a word of advice.
Haiku, anything.
A word of advice, and I had to learn this myself, and because I say acting was something I never wanted to do, but one thing I've learned is that when you know, because Miles had a fear, I don't like rejection or failure. So what that does sometimes, it paralyzes people from trying anything. And so I actually tried something that I didn't even want. I didn't know I wanted to try. So, but I would tell people the worst thing that can happen to you is that you learn something.
That's right.
That is the worst thing that can happen to you. So if that is the worst thing, why not? Whatever that why is for you. So the worst thing that can happen to you is that you learn something. And since that's what I was telling you, the best thing that happened to me was acting. It was nothing to do with acting. It's what it has helped. A lot of other things I'm doing and have done in my life I never would have done because I was too afraid of failure or rejection. Mm-hmm. I've traveled. The world. I mean, I've been to every continent except Australia and Antarctica. I've been to 5 continents, which I never would have thought I would have done, Because to me, when I was young, when I graduated from college, my dad asked me what I wanted for graduation. I said, "Give me a ticket to California." Because that to me, that was a big thing for somebody in Louisiana. I didn't get on the plane until I was 23 years old, but it was a different world 30 years ago. It was a whole different world. But now, people talk to anybody anywhere in the world instantaneously. So I would say, whatever you want to do in life, just do it. Do not wait. Because I've had, I'm over 50. Right after I made 50, I had 4 guys that I went to high school with died in a 12-month, in a year, 12-month calendar year. One, lung cancer, stroke, heart attack, brain cancer. And the last guy died, was in the best shape. He was the best shape person that I knew, regardless of age. Yeah. And I had another friend of mine. I'm going his funeral. I went to high school, same high school, tomorrow afternoon. Anything you want to do in life, just do it. Because you'll either you may find out you don't want to do it. Sometimes the best things that happen to you, sometimes something not happen to you can be the best thing to happen to you.
Yeah.
Because then this is not what I really want to do. So you don't carry on that what if, because that's, not doing something can eat at you more than being rejected from or not at failure at something. So just do it, whatever it is, as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical. I would say you try it. At least try it. You may end up saying, I really didn't want to do this, but I learned something. I want to do something else, or, I did better than I thought I would. So that would be my number one thing to tell people. Because when you get older, you realize, like I said, time is more important than money. The older you get, the more that becomes true.
Yeah.
The more that becomes true. So do it. Start when you're young and doing it. Don't wait, because the time, the hourglass has started, whether you realize it or not.
And
You just don't know how much sand is left. That's the only thing you don't know.
There is a line from a film from it says no amount of money ever bought a second of time. So it speaks to right to what you're saying. So Escalante, what we wanted to say is first and foremost, formally from TTFT, thank you for responding to us. You didn't know us from Adam. You came on the show. You bared with our first and only technical difficulties we've ever had, and we wish you nothing but success. Not only in your audition that you did today, but the ones that you have coming up. And again, the world needs more people like you to just do it. Don't just do it because you think it's something you want to do. Do it for the human experience. So, Mr. Lundy, thank you for everything today. We're going to make you look good, but you already look even better.
All right, my brother. Appreciate both of y'all gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Have a good night.
Why don't you subscribe? It'll last longer.